Right now, on Currents News, clergy in the Diocese of Brooklyn react to the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin for the death of George Floyd, saying justice was served, but more work needs to be done. Plus, an Asian woman is attacked for speaking her native language. Now a suspect is under arrest. Hundreds of National Guardsmen head to the border as one governor declares an emergency. A look at conditions as facilities fill up. And
we never even met before, but it was like just instantly knowing.
Two siblings find each other decades after they were adopted by different families. More reaction coming into the guilty verdict against former officer Derek Chauvin for the death of George Floyd. In Minneapolis, marches are being held for police reform. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Clergy in the Diocese of Brooklyn voicing their opinions on the case, expressing relief, but saying the work is far from over. Emily DROOBY spoke with them and has their message from CANARSIE.
Christine, it's been very emotional here at a mural of George Floyd in CANARSIE, Brooklyn. People have been stopping by to pay their respects. Now, earlier today, I traveled around the Diocese of Brooklyn, speaking with Catholics about the verdict. Now, many say they're grateful for the outcome of the trial, but that there's still a lot of work to do. From Minneapolis to New York, reaction to the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin in the murder of George Floyd. In the Diocese of Brooklyn, there's an overwhelming sense of justice being served.
I prayed, and I think God's justice was really at work in what we saw yesterday.
I am so elated about the verdict. I think justice is served.
We spoke with both Paulatiana St. Hilaire and Father Alonzo Cox at St. Martin de Porres Parish, a conversation filled with hope and a very difficult truth.
I am so happy about this verdict, but that doesn't bring George Floyd back to us.
Father Alonzo Cox is the coordinator for the Vicariate for Black Catholic Concerns. He calls the verdict a first step in being able to live in peace and harmony, also in rebuilding trust.
You know, we're called to trust our law enforcement officials, and we lost that trust a year ago when George Floyd was murdered, but now I think that trust can be restored.
Father Cox adds there's still work to be done. A statement reiterated by Bishop SHELTON FABRE. He's the chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Ad Hoc Committee Against Racism.
Human life is precious, that racism is an attack against human life. It reminds us of the work that we must do and continue to do as disciples of Jesus Christ.
Protecting human life by fighting racism. It's something Father Daniel Kingsley spoke about with us too. He's the administrator of St. Clare Parish, where last June a rally against the sin of racism was held after the video of Floyd's death was released.
It's a pro-life issue. That God, as we read in Genesis, breathed his life into our first parents and pronounced them good. My black brother, my brown brother, my Asian sister are owed charity, they're owed respect, they're owed dignity, because it's not something that I've gifted to them, but it's been gifted by the Creator.
When it comes to fighting against racism, everyone I spoke with today says there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. If anyone's interested in getting involved in the fight here in the Diocese of Brooklyn, they can reach out to Father Cox. In CANARSIE, Emily DROOBY, Currents News.
Just a day after the jury delivered their verdict, Attorney General MERRICK Garland is launching a probe into policing practices in Minnesota.
The Justice Department has opened a civil investigation to determine whether the Minneapolis Police Department engages in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing. The investigation will also assess whether the MPD engages in discriminatory conduct and whether its treatment of those with behavioral health disabilities is unlawful.
The Justice Department is already reaching out to communities in the Twin Cities to learn about their experiences with the department, and they plan to talk to officers about their training efforts. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now talking about police reform. Democrats want to get something passed by the anniversary of George Floyd's death on May 25th. The George Floyd Justice in Policing Act passed the House without Republican support last month. A version for the Senate is being worked on now. Reform needs 60 votes to pass the Senate, so it needs some Republican support. Chauvin is currently at a state prison in Minnesota. He's being held in an administrative control unit separated from the general public for his safety. He will wait there until his sentencing in about 8 weeks. In August, the other 3 officers involved in George Floyd's death will be tried. They're being charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter. A woman is in custody for slapping and harassing an Asian woman in Manhattan. Video from earlier this month shows the victim sitting outside talking with a friend in Mandarin. The suspect stomped over to her before screaming and then slapping her in the face. The victim refused medical attention at the scene. This comes amid a spike of anti-Asian attacks throughout the city. The suspect is charged with aggravated assault as a hate crime. Arizona's governor is sending 200 National Guard troops to the southern border. Governor Doug Ducey is declaring a state of emergency due to a surge of undocumented immigrants in federal custody. Ducey says his state needs the protection, and the Biden administration is not taking appropriate action. The troops will monitor surveillance systems and provide medical assistance for those at detention centers. The Supreme Court seems unlikely to grant green cards to undocumented immigrants who were granted a temporary stay for humanitarian reasons. They're looking into whether 400,000 foreign nationals from countries enduring national disasters or armed conflicts meet the requirements for the cards. Conservatives in the court voiced skepticism over migrants meeting requirements if they initially entered the country illegally. We have a reporter on the ground at the southern border. John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, is in McAllen, Texas, and he joins us now. John, tell us what's going on where you are right now.
Right now, I'm right in front of the Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley Humanitarian Respite Center. This is the place where migrants come right when they take the bus. They get to the bus station right over here. Border Patrol takes them to get tested, and then they come here where they're given help and the resources they need to go on their journey.
I know Bishop Flores said the church's mission is to be as humanly attentive to the needs of individual families as we can. So tell us how the Humanitarian Respite Center works.
What happens here at the Humanitarian Respite Center is when people come in, they first enter. After they're tested, they come in, they go and check in. From there, they check in. They're told when they go on their bus, when their bus is scheduled. Then from there, they wait. So in that waiting time, they're given any medicine they need, any resources, any help. They're allowed to shower, they're given clothes, food, really anything they need to meet that humanitarian need to help them get better from their long journey a lot of them just faced. So from there, they wait, and then after they're done waiting, they're called for their bus, and then they go and get on the bus, and they're on their way to their next stop to see their sponsor or family member.
Were you able to speak with any of the families there? And if so, what did they tell you about the center and the conditions that they're facing and their journey? What was the journey like to get there?
I did. I spoke to 2 families. One was a mother and her two young kids, one son, one daughter, and the other was a mother and her daughter. Both families came from Honduras. I can say that while they're here, they're extremely happy, extremely hopeful to be here on their way. One headed to New Orleans, one Seattle, Washington. They're extremely hopeful. And as for their journeys, it was really hard to hear. It was very tough journeys. They both mentioned sleeping on streets with their 2 young kids at various points throughout their long journeys. And they said it was very tough and they were worried for their kids. One in particular said her and her daughter are going to be scarred for life from a car accident they got in. That smugglers were driving, they hit a pole, and she shattered her shoulder and had other problems. And she's also pregnant. So just a very tough journey. She started to tear up as we were talking. So, but as I say that, as we come out of those conversations with them, they all point to the fact that they're hopeful to be here and they're grateful to be here and a place and to be on their way towards what they hope is a better life here in the United States.
All right, John Lavenberg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. Thanks for checking in with us and continue to keep us posted. We'll catch up with you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Christine.
On tomorrow's newscast, John Lavenberg will speak to an important leader in the efforts at the border, El Paso Bishop Mark Seitz. Plus, he visits a Catholic organization that offers hospitality to migrants. That's this Thursday on Currents News. You can check out all of John's reports on the border crisis at thetablet.org. Again, that's on thetablet.org. In Chile, lawmakers have approved a bill regulating euthanasia. It states that medical assistance to die has to be carried out by a health professional. The bill is a major step in the two-thirds Catholic country and now heads to the Senate for consideration. The applicant has to be a legal resident in Chile, at least 18 years old, and has to have received a terminal diagnosis by 2 specialist doctors. More than a year after his death, Father Gioacchino Basile's dream of renovating St. Gabriel Church in Elmhurst has finally come true. Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio joined the St. Gabriel Parish to celebrate the life and legacy of Father Basile, the church's previous pastor. The bishop led the Mass, praising the renovations and blessing the new altar and baptismal pool.
This renovation of the church is not just for you who are here, but for everybody. When the church is beautiful, you can bring other people in and they see the beauty and they see it as the house of God.
Father Basile had served the parish community at St. Gabriel Church since 2008. He passed away last April due to complications from COVID-19. There's a lot more news headed your way. Pope Francis is highlighting the power of prayer, especially one said out loud. Plus, COVID-19 numbers are skyrocketing in children. Why being lax about safety measures could prove dangerous for young people. And still ahead, after decades apart, 2 separated siblings share how they found each other.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Cities across the nation rolling back on safety measures as President Joe Biden passes his goal of delivering 200 million COVID-19 vaccine doses in the first 100 days of his presidency. But as Britt Conway reports, more and more children are now testing positive for the coronavirus.
More people in the United States are being vaccinated every single day at an accelerated pace.
That's the good news. The bad news:
cases and hospitalizations are increasing in some areas of the country.
But you wouldn't know it based on a recent poll from Axios Ipsos that shows people are getting more lax about public health measures. 53% said they visited family and friends in the last week, 48% went out to eat, and 63% said they wore a mask the entire time they were away from home, the lowest since July. Health experts say they get it.
Just like all of you, I want to get back to doing the things I love.
But we're not there yet. More people need to be vaccinated. Not to mention,
there are no licensed vaccines. There are no approved vaccines for children.
And now the American Academy of Pediatrics says children are making up a growing share of new COVID-19 cases, accounting for nearly 21% from April 8th through 15th, with more than 88,000 cases. Companies have been testing the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines on children, with Pfizer looking to extend its emergency use authorization to those 12 to 15 years old. And there are trials underway for kids younger than that.
Perfect.
But until then,
we need to wear masks. We need to wash our hands. We need to do these things to protect children.
Look at you, brave kid. I'm Britt Conway, reporting.
Pope Francis is sending medical equipment to Colombia as the country deals with rising COVID-19 numbers. 4 respirators and several containers of PPE needed to treat patients infected with the coronavirus have been distributed to hospitals. The Pope's gifts have been sent to some of the worst hit areas of the country in order to help those in need who can't get access to medical care. Pope Francis is highlighting the power of prayer. In his general audience, the Holy Father said prayer is key to finding hope in times of discouragement. He emphasized the value of vocal prayer, but also praised the elderly who pray quietly in churches as models of the faith to be admired.
Questi oranti della preghiera umile sono spesso i grandi intercessori delle parrocchie. Sono le querce che di anno in anno allargano le fronde per offrire ombra al maggior numero di persone.
But the pontiff said vocal prayer is even more important, recalling that Jesus taught the Our Father to his disciples to be said out loud. It is the nation's oldest and most prestigious Catholic award. The Laetare Medal is awarded every year at the University of Notre Dame to a Catholic whose genius has ennobled the arts and sciences, illustrated the ideals of the Church, and enriched the heritage of humanity. This year's winner, Carla Harris, Vice Chairman of Morgan Stanley, joins us now. And Carla, first off, congratulations. How does it feel to be the recipient of what's often dubbed the Medal of Honor in the Catholic Church?
Well, thank you so much, Christine, for this conversation. And I'll tell you, I am honored and humbled. Those are the two words that hit me the minute I found out. And it's an amazing and overwhelming feeling on top of that.
What does the award mean to you?
I'll tell you, it means the most, I'm trying to figure out the right way to put this. It is incredibly important. And the thing that makes it so important, frankly, Christine, is the fact that people ask all the time how you can hold on to your faith and manifest your faith in the workplace, let alone in a place like Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And I have always said, since I was a first-year associate, frankly, that, you know, the two were not mutually exclusive. So for me, this is a real example for people who struggle with that, and whether or not I can be who I am as a child of God and also excel in whatever my career is. And so I'm so happy that I have a chance, along with everyone who has come before me, to manifest that fact and remind people that they can walk in his light and as his child and do an incredibly great job in a secular world.
Wonderful. And I've heard you rose through the ranks there in the competitive world of banking as a woman and as a woman of color. That could not have been easy, and yet, showing your commitment to service, you find the time to mentor, I'm told, hundreds of associates. Why do you do that?
Well, because we're all standing on somebody's shoulders. And if someone has helped you or helped me, I think it is our responsibility to do that for other people. And I've been doing it ever since I was a first-year associate.
I love it. What comes around goes around, right? How has your faith helped you get to where you are today?
My faith has been front and center in everything that I have done as a Wall Street banker. And frankly, I don't know how someone can survive as long as I have without putting your faith front and center. And obviously there were tough times, but knowing whose I am, Christine, and not who I am, has made all the difference in longevity and frankly, and in success.
Wow, and as if banking didn't take up all of your time, you're also an accomplished gospel singer. I found this video on your website. I hear you give back during your concerts. Tell us how you do that and why.
Yes, I'll tell you that as a banker, I have been blessed that I can certainly support these charities through the checks that I can write, right? We all have three things: time, talent, and treasure. And treasure is one of the things you can get if you're a banker, for sure. But I realized that if he had also given me another gift to sing, and that people liked hearing me sing, I could in fact create a multiplier effect. So it wasn't just Carla Harris supporting these charities, it was also exposing these charities to this audience that came there to hear me sing, but they now get a chance to hear about these charities that I'm supporting at the same time. They get information in their gift bag about these charities, and long after that concert was over, there might be a connection made between that philanthropist or that person who wants to give in general and the charity. And that's one of the reasons I started doing it through the concerts. I thought, I can create a multiplier effect. And it was also a great way to sell the records that I had recorded. And all of the proceeds from the records were also going to these charities.
Wow.
So that's how that all happened.
That is so great. Carla Harris, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And congrats again as you receive the medal at the Notre Dame graduation ceremony next month.
Thank you very much.
Still to come on Currents News, a family reunion 50 years in the making, how these long-lost siblings relied on their faith to find each other. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back.
This miracle is what I got back.
If I do the right things, I'll be rewarded. And this was my reward, meeting Monica.
It's a meeting 5 decades in the making. 2 siblings adopted by different families are united, thanking their faith for bringing them together. Little did they know they grew up less than 40 miles away from each other. Jessica Easthope spoke with them and tells us how they were able to finally find one another.
1.5 cups.
Monica and John are baking. It's one of the many things they love to do together. But they don't have any family recipes.
1 3/4 cups of flour.
They're creating their own traditions because finding family in each other took a lifetime.
We only met 2 years ago. So you're talking about 58 years for me and 51 for him. That's a lot of time to catch up on. I'm gonna make dinner and have cake.
Monica Schuss is 7 years older than her brother, John Tominelli, a brother she didn't know she had, growing up as an adopted only child in Queens.
I never had a birth certificate. You couldn't find anything. I mean, especially back then, there was just nowhere to go.
John grew up farther east on Long Island. He was also adopted into a family with older parents like Monica's.
I grew up kind of shy with anxiety. My world was very small. I lived very cautiously because I was alone.
They were both living with a void, a missing ingredient. When they got older, they registered with the New York State Adoption Registry, John in 1991 and Monica in 1998. But decades passed with no word. They both married and had children, but wondering if a sibling was out there never went away. Then in March of 2019, they got letters with each other's name and address. Monica rushed to find her long-lost brother on social media.
I wrote, "Hi John, did you get the letter?"
They met and instantly felt complete.
We just hugged and we didn't let go, and it was just like this warm feeling. We never even met before, but it was like just instantly knowing.
All those years, Monica and John held tight to their faith, even when they felt they had nothing else.
I truly believe that because I was a good person, this miracle is what I got back.
I've asked God, put me where I should be. If I do the right things, I'll be rewarded. And this was my reward, meeting Monica.
At the beginning of the pandemic, they knew they couldn't be apart. So John moved in with Monica and her children
Come here, Kiki.
and pets in Ozone Park. As their family blended, they knew what happened to them wasn't an accident. There were just too many signs.
The first day we spoke was our mother's birthday. We have the same birthday.
The same birthday. My daughter's the same birthday. I mean, our son has 1 day later.
Our adoptive mothers both passed away during the same year.
They prayed they'd find each other for so long. Now their wish is to help others like them.
If you just keep the faith, don't give up, you will be blessed. And we want to help other people to have that blessing and have that feeling.
Now there are no more questions. They have each other, and it's all the proof they need. In Ozone Park, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
I love that story. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.